Hi, welcome to episode 4 of Turning Point. Turning Point is about people who made shifts, fairly radical shifts, somewhere halfway through their career. Today, we're meeting Dr. Marcus Ranney. Marcus studied medicine in England and he worked as a doctor, but he's also worked with a venture fund. He's worked with a consulting company. He was later general manager of Thrive Global. Thrive Global, as you know, is something started by Ariana Huffington. And then now he's on his own in a venture that he's just started. I thought Marcus had had a very fascinating journey, and it was something that we'd all be interested in. So, Marcus, let me ask you the first question. What made you take up medicine? Normally, I've noticed that people who take medicine already have somebody in their family who is a doctor, and therefore you get inspired by that close relative. So, was it something like that? Was it something else? Can you tell us a bit about how you got interested in medicine?
What made me take up medicine? I think it was it sounds a little bit cliched, I know, but it was a combination of huge interest in science. I mean, I'm a science geek at heart, and I loved biology and chemistry and science in school, and also having this deep intent inside of me to help people and particularly create an impact in this world. And therefore, I think medicine sort of allowed an avenue to bring those two worlds together. I'll also add, slightly embarrassingly, that I am a byproduct of sort of 1980s, 1990s TV. There was this famous sitcom called Doogie Howser MD, which I loved growing up. And then, of course, we had ER with George Clooney and his gang, sort of saving people in that busy emergency room. And so, obviously, this had some inspiration and sort of reinforced some of those storytelling. The reality of practicing medicine is very different to those television shows, but nonetheless, it got me interested in a journey at a very young age that then led me to then study medicine. I studied in London because that's where my mom's family is from. We moved there at a very young age. When I was around 12, we moved back to the United Kingdom, and I completed my high school and further studies. I then did a Bachelor in Science, which focused on human physiology, particularly physiology at the extreme. So that's what happens when the human body, when you push it to different extreme environments like flying aeroplanes or going to the moon or climbing mountains or deep sea diving, etc. A lot of topics that I'll be talking about in my new book, At the Human Edge, which is being released in a few weeks' time. And then after that, I went on to study medicine, complete my degree, and then practiced for a couple of years in the National Health Service in the UK.
Marcus, many of us consider changing our professions. I did too. But somehow, I think I always lack the courage to make that big leap. Since you've done it more than once, it would be very interesting if you shared with us how you went through that process. Because I think many people want to make a move, but something keeps them back. Uh, it's basically because you've been doing something you're familiar with, you're good at, and then to make a radical shift, you need a lot of courage. Can you share your experience with us?
I can definitely say that my career has been one of zigs and zags. Just from the beginning, sort of at the science end, physiology, then medicine, then practicing of that. Then I moved to India in 2010, 2011, and I quit clinical work, did work as a management consultant, then in venture capital as an investor, and then joined Ariana Huffington to lead her behavioral sciences company, Thrive Global. So it's been a very interesting career journey for me. I've never known what I want to do next. It's always been that which, if a very interesting opportunity presents itself, which aligns to sort of where we are in the world and where my passion is, then I throw myself into that full-heartedly. And it's allowed me, therefore, to sort of navigate a journey from disease care, pathogenesis, and sick care, ironically, what we as doctors practice, and then all the way across to the other side of the spectrum, which is truly healthcare and the ability to augment a person's well-being, really starting at the fundamental basics of behavioral change, going upstream as possible, looking at aspects like the importance of sleep and staying active and fueling the body in the right way and looking after the mind and creating purpose in your life, etc. All of those aspects, which are the foundational aspects of human performance, health, and well-being. So that's sort of been the journey for me. The underlying current has been the role that technology plays in our lives. A millennial, or just about making on the cusp of the millennial generation, depending on which definition one looks at. And so for me, technology has always been there and has increasingly become more and more prevalent, not only in our professional lives, but in our personal lives as well. And so trying to figure out how we can leverage technology in the best way to create that impact has also been an underlying current for me.
Marcus, you recently went back uh, as a COVID warrior, right? You went back because the pandemic was really getting very hectic in India, and you decided to take a break from your day job and go back to medicine to help people. I think that's very interesting. In fact, I have a niece in New York who did the same. She works in McKinsey, and she dropped that job for a few months to go and work in a hospital to help COVID patients. Could you share with us what happened?
Honestly, Prabhakar, I've been driven by service. It's something that I saw my father do as an Indian war veteran, serving in the Indian Navy on the INS Vikrant during the Indo-Pakistan War of 1971. My grandfather was in the Air Force during the Second World War. I served in the Royal Air Force as well. So service was always part and parcel, and it just seemed like a very natural thing to do. And when the pandemic started and then slowly made its way to India, I just threw myself in because it just seemed natural, because I had a skill set. I know I hadn't practiced for over a decade, but I had a skill set which I found could be applied very effectively. It was our generation's moment to stand up, and so for me to just sit on the sidelines just didn't seem like an option at all. My wife and I, of course, we discussed the risks. There were many. We've got 2 young kids. We've got elderly parents that we were still in contact with, not living with, but in contact with as well. She was seeing patients as well through her clinical work. So we had to navigate and mitigate as best we can, but it was a journey that I got so much out of. And through the 3.5 months, 4 months that I was able to serve in the local community here in Mumbai at the front lines, before I then fell unwell with the virus myself, I had an opportunity. We conducted something like 12 or 14 camps. Thousands of people were screened. Hundreds were then identified and then treated. And I just found so much purpose in that work, because honestly, I got back so much than I thought that I was giving. Just being in a position to help people at that opportunity, at their time of need, and do so in a way which allowed me to feel that there was impact which was being created, not only at the micro level, but would therefore spill over and grow and hopefully inspire others to do the same in their own spheres of influence. Then I'm so grateful that I was in the opportunity to do so.
Well, that's great. Do you have any words of advice, Marcus, to give people who might be looking at career changes but feel a little uncomfortable because they've been doing something for a longish period of time, and it takes a bit of courage or move to a different field? It'd be good to know what you went through and how you managed to do this.
I view my career as a lifelong journey. It's not something which starts when you're 18 and ends when you're 65. It doesn't have to be something which is exactly the same all the way through either. The world has changed so much. Technology has changed. The way we educate ourselves and we acquire knowledge, and the type of knowledge that we need and the skills that we require to be successful in this world have drastically transformed and evolved over the last couple of generations, that for any of us right now, it's very important that we continue to understand that our journey, our career journey, needs to be transient. It needs to keep evolving, and through that we need to continually enhance the knowledge and the skills that we have, right? It's not the graduation ceremony, you throw your hat in the air and that's the end. No, that's when learning actually begins. and then it's a lifelong process of then translating that, picking up the new skills, and then developing them along the way. So I am thoroughly excited. Every day I wake up, I'm doing something that I enjoy. If I don't enjoy doing it, then I ask myself, is this really what I want to be doing right now? And then trying to understand how I can start to evolve and mitigate and move through to a position where I can recreate that happiness and that excitement again. So I know I've got many more adventures still to come, and that's what excites me. And ultimately, it's a singular passion of, and I suppose it's how we started our conversation, Prabhakar. It's a singular set of passions that align with science and align with impact. And as long as I'm recreating and leveraging those two skills in my life, then I'm happy doing the different things that I get set in front of me. So youngsters, keep at it, keep hungry, embrace failure, and make sure your journey is a fun one and helps others along the way. Thank you, Prabhakar, for having me today, and I hope that you stay well and everyone watching this stays well as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.